Hi everybody, and welcome to our next episode of our International SEO series. This week we're going to be focusing on China, and we have Marcus Pensek and Kung Tang here, who are going to be talking to us about all things SEO and China. So hi, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thanks for letting us be here. So let's get right into the session, I would say. We're here for International SEO, talking about China. Maybe Kun, you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, of course. My name is Kun. I'm the founder and managing director of Jademont Digital. I've been engaged with China SEO since 2009. We're also slowly getting into international SEO for different language. Well, our focus is mainly on APAC, meaning Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, etc. Yeah, we try to do loads of other things, but still our focus is always SEO. So great to be here.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, my name is Marcus Pensek. I'm the director SEO at Jademont Digital. I'm working online for countless years. I've been doing web design, creating online shops. And at one point, my client simply asked me, hey, I've got a website now we need clients and we need visitors. And that's how I got into SEO like 15 years ago. And very soon starting with international SEO through my through consultancy with different companies that I worked at. And yeah, about 8 years ago, I moved to China for love, and there, working for a Chinese company, I was introduced to Baidu, and I found my new love, SEO for China, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing what insights you guys have.
Yeah, the very first insight that probably everybody knows already is that there's a lot of people in China. I mean, it's about 1.4 billion people, and roughly a little more than 1 billion people of these people are internet users. So you can reach 1 billion people if you are doing marketing in China. That's really a lot.
And that's a nice amount.
Exactly. And when you're trying to compare it to the USA or to Europe, for example, you have to get them both into this mass to get at the same size to reach the amount of internet users you can reach actually in China. So having all the internet users from US and Europe together is like the same amount of people you can reach in China. I mean, you might have heard that a lot of people in China, maybe Kun can say something about this as well. They're simply using social media. I mean, you've seen WeChat, that's the little icon here with the two speaking bubbles. You know the TikTok logo, which is actually Douyin in China. Xiaohongshu is here, another social app that we can see here. So basically, most of the internet users are using social media nowadays. And you might hear a lot that this might be one of the reasons you don't need SEO anymore. But that's really not the truth. I mean, although there's more than 900 million or nearly 1 billion users using social media, it's still 809 million users going to the classical web search engines like, I mean, you would call them Google or Yahoo or Yandex. The main search engine in China is Baidu, Jihu, Shima, Sogo. There's some more.
360 as well.
Yeah, that's Jihu. Yeah. Exactly, that's Jihu, the little circle logo with a dot. That's 360 or Jihu. So even though more people make use of social media than of traditional web search engines, that is still a lot of people you can reach through traditional search. It's 2.9 times more search engine users than the US have internet users. And it's still 1.2 more search engine users than the US internet users. I would say that's enough people you can reach to say, hey, still let's focus on it, or let's have it one leg in traditional search, be it SEO or SEA, PPC.
That's a lot. And just out of curiosity for people who kind of are new to the world of, China and the social media marketing side of things and people searching on social media, do you have any examples of when you'd recommend, say, solely sticking to social media? And when you'd recommend search, or would you recommend for everybody doing both of them?
That's a perfect question for Kun, I think.
Yeah, obviously, for anyone, whether it's B2B or B2C, nobody is going to convert or purchase on one social media. For typical Chinese users, the journey of purchasing, it requires obviously social media. They get to know the products. They may get into the introduction from a live stream, for example, but the people still go back to search engine finding out, is this brand actually from, for example, from UK, or is this brand a real British brand? Are they produced in UK rather than outsourced in China? So they do a lot of search to just back check the story. Not to say they don't trust the social media, but they do want to do basically multiple touch points. It's slightly like a B2B buyer. It involves a lot of decision makers. For Chinese customer, they're smart. They don't really go for one social media and do all this job. So that makes this search engine plays a role here, even for consuming products.
That's really interesting because I think here in Europe, people kind of take social media on face value and you don't really go and research to see if everything's true. But the research phase in China is so much longer. So you really do have to work harder to build up that trust, I would say.
Yeah, totally. Well, for different reasons. I mean, we do have a lot of Chinese company. They invented an English name, for example, and they started building the story, the brand story around that and saying, okay, we are saying a French brand or American brand. And even they say, okay, this is actually produced or researched R&D in Europe. They do that. And so there are people, just the trust here is a bit low. So that makes the whole search engine, even they go to Google to find out, do they have an English website and do they have English social media? So they do a lot of checking simply because just too many fake international brands.
Yeah, and when it comes to researching, they definitely turn to search engines. And in China, that means they're turning to Baidu. I mean, we're looking at the whole market. We have a little around 60% of market share being Baidu, the rest being split up to different smaller search engines like Bing. I mean, in China, it's small. Sogo, Haosu, or 360, that's the Haosu that we were talking about. But this is the whole market. But there's a big split between desktop users, mobile users, and tablet users. It's not that many. Most people in China are actually going online on their mobile. And this is not only when you're going private. This is also when you're in business. You always have your phone on hand. You're using the social media apps like WeChat, QQ to get in touch with customers, people that you're working with, be it in the same company or in other companies. So your mobile is always at hand. That really results in so many more people using the internet through the mobile phone. And when we're seeing this, we of course have to look at search engines also in another dimension. So just looking at which search engines are important on mobile search or on the mobile phone. And this is still clearly much more than in the overall search, Baidu with 80% currently. That's the numbers from October 2022.
So if you had customers coming to you, would you, if they're new to the Chinese market, I guess you'd suggest Baidu to start off with rather than the smaller search engines?
That's a tricky question, right? There is not so much search around Christmas. Of course, there is some, as they're seeing Christmas as something international, and especially the young people might get into the Christmas time and buying presents and giving them to friends. Are you buying Christmas presents for
Sorry,
anybody?
I meant if they're new to China, not Christmas. So suggesting to go for Baidu instead of, say, Shenma search engine.
Yeah, definitely.
Christmas, maybe people want to talk about Christmas. You never know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what comes closest to Christmas here in terms of e-commerce is probably it just happened at the time that we are recording this session. It's just a few days past 11/11, which is Singles Day, big shopping experience actually in China.
Is it still as big that it is? Because I read a few things somewhere that maybe this year it was a bit smaller than usual. Is that true or not?
It is true, unfortunately. The data shows this year's Singles Day, I mean Tmall Singles Day, the sales number, it's only approximately 55% of last year. Well, for different reasons, obviously, economy is not as good as last year. And there are also lockdown issues. So people will not be able to receive the products. They feel, why should I buy now? Why don't I wait or go to other places to buy? So yeah, different reasons.
It's interesting because for the first time ever in the Czech Republic, I actually went to the shopping center and saw a sale for Double 11. Like, Czech consumers, I don't think know the roots in China of Singles Day at all. But it's interesting that kind of 2 weeks ago it was Double 11, and now the same shop's doing Black Friday.
So it's actually swapping over to Europe?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I don't think people really understand the roots, but I think it's kind of jumping on the bandwagon a little bit, like, oh, there's Double 11, let's do an extra sale. But it was surprising. It wasn't something that I ever expected to really see in my local shopping center at all.
That's interesting. Wow. Okay. I mean, we're still on the slide of mobile search engines, and you were mentioning Shenma. So the yellow line here. Actually, when Shenma came up and was introduced to the market, it really gained a big market share, and everybody was thinking they're going to be the winner against Baidu. But I think it lasted like 1 year or maybe two, Kun. I don't quite remember, until they started to drop again in market share.
Yeah, that's true. Well, initially, Shenma was part of this mobile browser.
Yeah.
So it went up very quickly because smartphone introduced, and by that time there was not 4G, there's only 3G. So a lot of mobile website, by that time they're called a website. So Shenma managed to consolidate them together. So if you are using your smartphone, you can't really browse around. You only go to this website. So Shenma managed to control that. So initially it went very well, but when 4G announced in 2013 or 2014, so basically your smartphone can really browse around as fast on the normal website as long as they have launched the mobile website. You have the bad experience, and Baidu managed to, working hard on that by announcing this. I can't recall the exact name.
MIP, Mobile Instant Pages.
Exactly, MIP. Yeah. Sorry, it's been updating. So basically, it's advocating website owner convert your website using MIP protocol, make your website accessible by mobile and a mobile search. So by that, Baidu managed to take control back from Shenma. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Baidu still took control in this way.
Yeah. for everybody that's listening now, MIP, the mobile instant pages, is basically the same as we had as AMP for Google with the accelerated mobile pages. It was even the same vocabulary. They were just being hosted on Baidu servers instead of Google servers. But I think it was stopped being served or stopped being supported by Baidu last year or 2 years ago. Because the internet simply got too fast or fast enough for showing.
Exactly. And they even changed the name to Bearpaw, and then now Bearpaw changed to this mini program, Baidu mini program. Mm-hmm. But essentially, they can trace back to the root of MIP.
Oh, okay. Okay, so since we're talking about Google and Baidu here in this case, or on the last slide, I brought to you a comparison of how a desktop SERP looks on Google on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, the Baidu layout. And I always find they're looking quite similar, but in some terms. I mean, we've got the search field in the top. Below there is the search results with a title, a description, sometimes an image, some more images on Baidu. But they're still kind of different. I mean, Baidu is much more colorful. You see it with so many more pictures being around. You might think they're being triggered by a schema.org or something like we would see it on Google, but it's not. It's picked on random by Baidu. You cannot trigger it by yourself, those images. Sure, can I see my mouse here? Like this or this or this one. These images are simply picked by Baidu by themselves. Of course, you need to do some classical image SEO. The keyword highlighting is not like simply bolding it like we see it on Google. It's more picking another colors, choosing red in this case, in the title tags as well as in the descriptions. There are some similar SERP features like maps, images, video integrations, related questions even. But there are also some different SERP features that you might not see on Google or the other way around. But both have the similar business model. They both deliver ads, and that's how they're earning money from search. The last point, Baidu shows more of their own services as organic results. So it's not advertisements that they're showing here, but more different services. I mean, Google is big already, and they have the image search, they have video search, but Baidu has so much more. They have their own Wikipedia. It's called Baidu Baike. It's a user-generated content website, and everybody can contribute to it, but it's owned by Baidu, and they're kind of favoring it in the search results. And so this way, they have many more different services like forum services, review services, where you can interact and post reviews, comment reviews, and so on. And they're really being favored by Baidu. I've done a research in 2020, and I've seen like almost 50% of the search results on the first page of Baidu were taken by Baidu-owned services.
Actually being less now for different reasons. Obviously, Baidu want to keep its SERP more diversified because they've been criticized that they favor their own web property too much. Secondly, there are people are leaving Baidu, moving on social media. So obviously, if people don't get diversity from your search engine, they will go to other places. So we've seen that by using generic keyword search, I know we find out they've been giving traffic over to Zhihu, like a Q&A platform, which is definitely not Baidu. Actually, Zhihu is overtaking a lot of preferred ranking than Zhidao, which is owned by Baidu. And secondly, I think starting from last September, basically the authority, the government was requiring big internet companies to stop blocking each other. For example, Baidu has to start indexing a lot of social media, including Little Red Book and Douyin. And the same thing, Douyin and the Little Red Book and the Taobao have to allow Baidu to index their pages. Before, Taobao was basically saying, disallow Baidu Spider. You can't index my content or my product feed. Now they are stopped doing that. So yeah, that's also the other reason you see more diversified search results.
And that might even bring more people going back to search because they have one place where they can find so many different results. I mean, from Taobao, from Tmall, from JD, all being in one place because Baidu is now allowed to crawl them, right?
I can imagine that making a big difference because, as we said at the beginning, Chinese consumers like reviews. If they can go to Baidu and actually see everything rather than having to switch from all of the different platforms.
That's right. Okay, I mean, everybody doing SEO is probably very fond of optimizing how they look in search. And when we're looking at this, there's an optimization process of the title and description, and we're trying to get the most important keywords in the title and being seen in the description and so on. But for this, we need to know how much space do we have, right? And this is actually quite a lot. We've got like 30 characters, so 30 separate characters, space in the title tag that could be displayed. Usually around 21 of them are being used. As I found out in the 2020 study on Baidu's search engine ranking factors, which I did with Searchmetrics. You can still download it. It's still quite good. And for the description, there's around 80 characters, while it's roughly 72 of them being used. This is for the desktop layout. When we're looking at the mobile layout, for Google, you even have more space there. For Baidu, it's different. You have less space. So there's only like 19 characters for the title being able to be used, while it's almost really given or almost being taken from all optimizers. So they're trying to get all of that. And it's only like 49 characters for the description area. You really still want your keywords in both areas because they're really being highlighted in red, and this really gets the traction of search engine users looking at the SERPs. So when it comes to ranking factors, we already little started talking about it. It's not so much different from what we see at Google. I mean, you do have to have the technical basis that Baidu is able to crawl your website. And so it's about accessing, it's about crawling, it's about having clear HTML, not really pushing too much content into JavaScript, while Baidu is able to crawl JavaScript. You still have to have the content, so the search engine knows what your website is about and knows what are showing to people that are coming from search engines based on certain keywords towards your website. And of course, the search engine needs to know how important is your website. So it needs to get at the reputation part of your website. With Google, it's pretty much links. With Baidu, it's also links, but there are some more factors to look at. So when we're getting to the technical basis, I already said, try to not use as too much JavaScript. Google is getting better at doing it, but Baidu is not as far yet. They can read JavaScript, they can execute it, they might even download content that's being served through JavaScript frameworks, but not using them keeps really on the safe side of really being really indexed from the content part of their website. That's one part. The other part is similar to Google, actually. JavaScript-based websites are simply not that easy to crawl. That's why they're not being crawled as fast and as often as regular HTML websites. That's an interesting part. Hosting your website in mainland China is better for page speed. It's not about you have to host in mainland China or you don't get indexed. That's not the case. Yeah, Baidu is crawling outside of the boundaries of China. But websites that are being hosted in China usually have a better page speed. That's because of the Great Firewall. You might have a question.
Okay, that's quite famous. Let's be honest. I think everybody's heard of the Great Firewall of China when it comes to Baidu SEO. Quick question about that. So when it comes to hosting in mainland China, is it easy to set up hosting in mainland China if you're a foreign company, or are there any special steps that you have to take?
Yeah, to host the website in China, you need to have a Chinese registered company, and you need to use that company entity to apply for ICP certificate. ICP means Internet Content Provider. So with those two, you can start hosting the website through different data center, whether it's Tencent Cloud or Baidu or Ali Cloud. Alternatively, if you don't want to separate your China site from the main website, because you need somehow a global control of the content, you can also use AWS and iSEO. They have their China data center partner. So with these two, they can set up you with what they call the CDN. That will make your China website faster by putting those static files in those China CDN proxy. So basically, any China IP visitor, they can basically load those static files from the nearest places rather than from your Europe or North America data center. That's the alternative way. But both options are not cheap. It probably costs the same as your setup, or even more than hosted in China.
Oh, at least it's all good news that the Great Firewall isn't too firewally.
Well, it's a firewall after all. I mean, there is a good reason for it being there, just preventing to have all the illegal content stay out of China and not being presented to regular users. It's not a border which simply says, hey, you don't come in here. Talking about security, the HTTPS protocol should be used definitely. It's not mandatory. You can still have good rankings, but there's a positive correlation between better rankings and the HTTPS protocol being used. Internal linking within your website is still key. Link all important pages as soon and often as possible. Of course, only as it makes sense. Don't put everything in the footer or so. That doesn't make sense. Avoiding linking too often to less important pages is the other way around. Yeah. So basically, clean up your internal linking profile. I've seen so many websites doing these mega menus with thousands of links in their main menu just by opening submenus all the time. And they are all being in the source code. This really doesn't have any search engine to understand which pages are important. And just as Google gets better at interpreting structure within websites through siloing, for example, Baidu also gets better at that. So using best practice you have from Google and applying them to Baidu SEO, that's a good thing. Placing very different search and intents, that's really a thing that's so much different from Google. For Google, we usually say, hey, keep everything on one website, on one www instance, for example. As all the links coming into the different parts of the websites, they're simply strengthening this subdomain, right? This www. And this really helps every of the other instances, like the forum, the blog, the e-commerce part of the website, to grow and to get better rankings. For Baidu, it's the other way around. Baidu really wants to see one search intent, sometimes even one topic, being closed and really being focused on one part of your website. And these parts of the website, that usually Well, you can distribute them to different subdomains. So you can have a forum subdomain, a blog subdomain, main website subdomain on the www. And Baidu really still lets these subdomains inherit some of the power of the main domain, which is completely different from what I experienced at Google. So this is a part of the strategy that especially big websites should think about implementing. And flat URL structures, well, this is something that is repeated by so many Baidu SEO companies. They really won't help with better rankings. So putting every page within the root folder really doesn't help. It's more about the internal linking, actually. So having all important pages being linked very soon, very often, helps Baidu to understand which pages are important, but not having them really on the root level.
That's really interesting, because I think lots of people kind of struggle with the technical differences between Baidu and Google. So I think having it set out there, I think, will make people very happy.
Yeah, I think so. What we see here is 2 screenshots of my 2020 Baidu SEO ranking factors correlation study that I did with Searchmetrics. Just Google it and you'll find it, free download. This is simply showing on the bottom part the rankings from 1 to 10, and in the Y scale, how long on the left-hand chart, how long is the path of the URL? So everything that's starting behind the TLD. And we do not see a correlation between shorter path and better rankings here, but we do see an average length at around 30, 31 characters of URL lengths. And this already shows URLs can be longer and they can still rank quite well. And when we're looking at the right-hand side, that's what I just talked about, the directory count. You don't have to have every single file in the root domain. It's on average, it's even 2 folders deep, the URLs that are ranking well in the top 10.
Actually, one quick question that I also get a lot about URLs is, in China, is it better to have a English URL, a Chinese URL, or Pinyin URL?
That's actually a very good question. You might assume that Chinese URLs work better, as Chinese people can read them, right? The thing is, they are shown, if they are shown in the SERP, they are shown as Chinese characters, and people can read them, sure. But Baidu tends to show URLs less often, so this would not be a reason for it. But you still see the URL in the top of your browser, right? Then there's the thing of sharing URLs. So you're going to the URL in the top of your browser, you're copying it and posting it into a forum, or printing it down, putting it in a Word document, or whatever. This really starts causing mess up, actually, as these Chinese characters are being encoded in UTF-8, and when you're copying them, some forums might not really display them as Chinese characters, but as these codes, and this is not really user-friendly. The browser could still cope with it, but the user cannot read it anymore. So this might lead to using Pinyin, which is the Latinization system of Chinese characters. So basically those ABCs that you're typing in to get to those characters, right? You see this sometimes, but almost, at least from my feeling, I didn't really put a study on it, I see almost as often English URLs or even just numbers.html or something. Couldn't you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, we definitely see big websites. They tend to use either pinyin or number just to minimize the length of the URL, because the bigger the website is, the longer of the directory, or the more layers we see that in the URL. So to make it short enough, so it makes sense to replace the Chinese character with the numbers or pinyin.
Thank you.
That is not so much of a ranking factor per se. It's more like a usability thing, right?
I think people often forget that, you're meant to be optimizing for the people and not just for the search engine.
Yeah, that's true. Talking about optimizing for the people, it's content. Content is one of the most important things. And Baidu, as a search engine focusing on mainland China, you really need to we need to talk about the language that's being spoken and that's being written there. And the spoken language is definitely Mandarin Chinese or the High Chinese or Hochchinesisch in Deutsch. But the written system, the same language actually as is being spoken in Taiwan, but it's not the same language as it's being written in Taiwan because they're using different characters and they're using traditional Chinese characters, the same that are being used in Hong Kong. But in Hong Kong, the spoken language is Cantonese. So there's a really big mix-up. So if you're optimizing for mainland China, really go to people that are speaking Mandarin and can write in simplified Chinese characters, and preferably people that are still living in China as they're being used to the vocabulary being used here in this country or locally. This might even be different in northern China and southern China, really depending on the topic that you want to talk about. But keep in mind, simplified Chinese characters and Mandarin.
I think people often forget that China is so big that, for example, there is going to be a big difference between the way people speak in, say, northern China and southern China. So if you are doing a local campaign, actually it's even better to probably say that if you are targeting different places in China, you have to realize that they could be the difference between, say, Paris and Berlin or, say, Paris and Warsaw, because they're so far away. So if you did want to, say, target Beijing and then another city, you might actually have to kind of tweak it to make it more local, which is not just like, catering for one country and saying, doing standard German.
I mean, coming from Germany, even in the small country of Germany, it's the same. If you're being in Berlin and you want to buy these oil fried Krapfen, they're called Krapfen, and we from the western part of Germany, we call them Berliner. And at some other places, I know in Berlin they're called Pfannkuchen, and in other places they're called Krapfen. In my place, they're called Berliner. So there are so many different words for the same thing, even within this small country. And imagine China being so much bigger.
I find that in the Czech Republic as well. Like I speak the equivalent of, say, Bavarian from the south, but people from Prague use completely different words for certain things. And if I use some of the local words, say, people from Prague get really confused because they're like, what are you on about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we definitely see the similar thing. For example, we see the fast food or the food delivery company like a Meituan and Ele.me. So obviously they are doing a nationwide campaign, and for example, when people are searching for mifen, rice noodle, obviously there are different kinds of rice noodle. You have the Guilin rice noodle, which is round and long. However, in Guangzhou, in Cantonese area, people tend to expect the mifen is flat, and even you go to the north a little bit to Hunan, the noodle is also different. They may not be made out of rice, but instead it's made out of sweet potato. So yeah, that makes the whole mifen carries a lot of different meaning. So you have to really go with a different location with different ad copies. And for SEO point of view, you may need to create directory that is catering the province. So yeah, that just echo what you said about the food in Germany.
That's super interesting because I don't think people in Europe would even think that they'd have to do different landing pages or different directories for different types of noodles for a standard dish, for example, and different ad copy. And I guess even photos as well, if they're illustrating it with photos.
True. This is really complicated. Let's not make a food business.
You're going to make me hungry now.
Right. Comparing languages. I mean, we're comparing countries. Now let's compare languages. We're looking at the English language or the German language or any other Western language which has letters that are putting together words. There is so much more space taking when we're talking about text. Given that a simple Chinese word is made out of 1 to 2 characters. Exactly, it can be 1 character, it can be 2 characters. The more complicated the words get, the more characters there are. So they might even get longer, that's true. But still, the same word in English or in German might even be 2 or 3 times longer. So when you're having the same amount of text on a Western landing page and on a Chinese landing page, you're saying so much more in the Chinese part. This is really impressive. I think I'm going to show you an example later.
That sounds like a PPC person's dream, because like doing German PPC, only being able to have one word in a 30-character limit is tough. But if you can have a nice crafted sentence in Chinese, that would be amazing.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true. And still being content is not only words. Content is also the images, content is videos, content is everything that you put on the page. And I have seen, again, in the 2020 correlation study, there is a big correlation between better rankings on Baidu and the usage of images. That's what we're looking at here now. So this chart basically shows that almost all top 10 ranking pages, in average, of course, are using at least one image. So it's around 92% of all top ranking pages are using at least one image. And you see the curve goes higher on the left-hand side into direction of position 1 and 2. So there's a really big correlation between better rankings and at least having images on the page. And when looking at how many images, that's getting even more interesting. I mean, there's still a correlation, and we're still seeing more top rankings on the better positions if there are more images. But let's have a look at the median, and it's about 28 images that you really have to have on your website to be in the same field as the top 10 ranking pages. For myself, I think that's astonishing, and that really shows how important imagery is for people, and that Baidu knows that.
I wish that they would do that in Google sometimes, because there's nothing worse than a whole long text that you just can't seem to break up. Whereas it seems that Baidu's really got it together and like really encouraging people to use images, and that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, looking at all the SEO pages, that all these texts that people put on the page just to make Google rank it better, people won't read it anyway, so we put it in the bottom and make 1,000 or 2,000 words. I mean, this is so crazy, and so let's not talk about
it. We could be ranting for ages.
Yeah, exactly. But when it's keeping our optimization process on the images, there's so less people, so less webmasters actually optimizing their images. I mean, they don't give them image names that are speaking. They just have them as numbers, .jpg. They don't even make use of the alt text. I mean, around 40% of those images that are on the pages in the top ranking positions, from 1 to 10 here in this chart, they're not making use of the alt tag. And I think this is one of the spaces where you as an SEO can really make a difference and have space to tell Baidu what is the image about, and to help Baidu understand the connection between the image and the text. And maybe something that really could use, or that you could use when you're optimizing websites for China.
And it's something so simple as well.
Exactly. That's a quick win. We're sticking to content, and there's so much more that you can do with text. And I've found that 88%, almost 89% of the top ranking pages make use of unordered lists, so those bullet point lists. And that's a great thing. And in addition, there's even a positive correlation between better rankings, so going into the direction of position 1, 2, 3, and the usage of unordered lists. We have these same charts here, as not the same charts, but the same kind of charts, showing at least one unordered list being in the top position, being on the pages, really correlates with better rankings here again. And on the right-hand side, the number of unordered lists. So how many UL tags do we have in the on the website? And this really astonished me again. I mean, around 10 unordered lists on one page. This, I mean, one list doesn't need to have 20 points, can only be 1, 2, or 3, but still the number of URLs is something that that you really should think about to implement into your website. When we're talking about lists, there's not only unordered lists, but also ordered lists. And we see in this chart here the same thing. The more ordered lists, the better the ranking. So there's still a big correlation between those two. But looking at how many percent, it's only in the top for position 1, 9% of those pages using ordered lists. So this might be another quick win that we could implement into our websites.
Gotta love those quick wins and nice and easy things that people can implement.
I mean, it's always a quick win to make your content be more accessible from different kinds of users, right?
Oh, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and besides lists, there's also tables. I remember the time when I started with building websites, I used tables as design elements. But when we're talking about using tables here on the website, it's more about having data tables. So really using them as they're meant to be used. And there's again a correlation of 0.67 between better rankings and the usage of at least one table, and around 17% of all top 10 ranking pages are actually using tables. And the number of tables, I keep on saying this, astonished me again. We have a middle of or an average of around 8 tables per page. That's amazing.
That's a lot, but that's pretty cool.
And when we're talking about content, we have been talking about the Great Chinese Firewall. This is really related to this. I mean, the Chinese Firewall tries to keep all the illegal stuff out. And this means you have to stick with the Chinese law. Do not post any content or words that could support that your website hosts illegal content. This is really important, and you have to really work with your agency to have somebody check your content. I mean, if you have somebody just translating your content to Chinese, it might end up as Chinese is such a Pictionary software language that you might have words in there that you didn't mean this way. So really have a check, please.
Is there any examples that you could give of kind of wording that would seem quite innocent but actually could be illegal?
Oh, wait. I recall which company was it? I think it was Osram. Maybe you know this company. They're building light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had this campaign of way of light in the West. Mm-hmm. And they simply translated it way of light into Chinese. And this was coincidentally the name of an illegal organization in China.
Oh, wow. Didn't end. Guess that didn't end very well then, or like they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you'd never know that, would you?
No. I mean, if you're not in this culture, you wouldn't know. So you should prepare well-describing content. Well-describing content means not just translating everything from one language to the other, but really thinking about what you want to say and thinking about how many different people you want to reach in China. And recalling yourself that those people are really different and that they might think from different directions. So you might want to rephrase what you just said or what you just wrote in a little different way to reach many more people. So although Chinese is a language, or the written Chinese is a language that takes not that much space compared to other languages, text on Chinese languages tends to be longer than on the Western pages. And this is the reason. You have to be really descriptive in your content to reach as many people as possible.
That's something I've seen quite a bit as well, that, for example, if people are doing WeChat posts are longer, they're meant to be longer, but people tend to just translate their Facebook posts and it ends up being this tiny little thing when actually people are looking for, a long piece, kind of almost blog piece of content.
Yeah, exactly. What we see here, you might know this text: two households, both alike in dignity, in Verona. It's a piece of Shakespeare, and when we're translating it word to word into
My
Chinese,
English teacher would kill me right now.
you can see already see the difference, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there's two households, and on the left-hand side, and looking on the right-hand side, it's just 4 characters. Yeah, and we have like 4, 8-ish, 10-ish characters here on the left-hand side in English. And we have got so much more space that's free after the translation. So it's really a efficient written language, if you say it this way. When we're looking at reputation, that's the next part, yeah, after content. We need to take into consideration all these programs that Baidu is launching, like the Baidu Bear Paw program that Kun already talked about. I think it's not even actual anymore, already renamed. I don't recall the name. Having an ice.
Yeah, sorry, it is called a mini program. It's basically copy WeChat's mini program, but it's called Baidu mini program. Eventually, it's for mobile, and it can be transferred through to other app as well. So yeah, it is, again, it's app, it's for mobile. So that makes the MIP the best type of content, but just call it a different name.
Yeah, so making use of these services that Baidu is offering to provide the best user experience of your website to the users is one part to show to Baidu that you are trying your best. And this is part of the reputation part. The same is about the ICP license. You don't need it to be found by Baidu, to be indexed and to be ranked, but it does help to prove that you are trying to stick with the law, that you're doing your best to provide good content to the people. Next part was the official website label, which would show a little character beside your website ranking, just showing everybody, hey, yeah, this is really the official website of L'Oreal, for example. And of course, something that every SEO knows from Google as well is backlinks from other websites help to build reputation, help to make Baidu understand this website is important because they get backlink from there and from there and from this website and from this news portal. And of course, the less important the website linking, the less important is the link. And what happens to that is making use of Baidu services like Baidu Baike, the Wikipedia of Baidu, and other services where you are sometimes, not always, allowed to post links as well. And a link from Baidu service, if it doesn't get deleted, might be a good thing to drive traffic and to build up reputation. And of course, doing public relations, doing PR work, helping your brand awareness grow in China, which also helps the search volume of your branded search terms growing and keeping the stream of visitors to your website on a good or even rising level. There would be so many more parts that you can do in the reputation part, or even go into the single parts and make them wider, really rework them to grow the reputation of your website and your brand. I mean, it's all connected. It's not just doing SEO, it's everything, basically.
Got another question for you regarding backlinks. We're going on to backlinks right now, so absolutely perfect. So lots of people ask that they have lots of, say, backlinks that they've built for their Google optimization. Do they need to go and start doing getting Chinese backlinks from Chinese websites, or will their Google backlinks do them?
That's a good question. And here, let's stick to Google first. When you're doing international SEO for Google, and you started up with gaining backlinks for your US website, how much does it help your US website to have all these links from US publications? How much does it help your German website? It might help you a little if it's hosted on the same domain. Yeah, if you have got a .com/de, for example, yeah, then it helps to grow the authority of your domain, and this way the authority of the German part of the website as well. But it's not the same if the German website is on a .de, for example. Then it's got no backlink profile at all, got no reputation. And it's exactly the same thing here. We do recommend to host your Chinese website on a separate domain. There are some reasons for it. One being not just being on a separate domain, but being on a .cn or .com/cn really suggests to the users this website is built for China. And this is the same suggestion that you're giving to in direction of Baidu. Baidu is certain, hey, this website is not only in Chinese language, it even is registered on a .cn. It's one more signal that Baidu is sorting it into the right country. And therefore, you should gain and earn backlinks for your Chinese website. But your question had a second part. Do I need Chinese backlinks, or do I need backlinks from Chinese website? And yes, definitely. I mean, just recall yourself, or just recall what backlinks are for in the very beginning. Yeah. I mean, they're meant to bring visitors to you. It's not about gaining better rankings. It's about bringing people from one website to the other, and having a link from a US website or from a German website or a Czech website pointing to the Chinese website. I mean, they might be there links, but people won't click because they don't want to visit the Chinese website.
Oh, exactly. Like US users don't want to go to the Chinese website, but you want people in China coming to your website, so Chinese links.
Right. That's it. You need Chinese links to get people from China and visit your website. And how many links do we need? A lot, definitely. I mean, I've seen this, or we have seen this in the correlation study again. There's a big correlation between the number of referring domains pointing to a website that's ranking in the Baidu top 10 and better rankings. And you probably don't need for every single website, for every topic, like those 2,341 domains linked to you. This is just average among all topics. And for some keywords, it might be less. For some, you might even need a little more authority.
It's quite an impressive amount, though.
Yeah, it still is, definitely. I definitely cannot say if you really need all these domains, right? I mean, eventually, Baidu doesn't even count half of them. We don't know that. Yeah, we have not a spying glass looking into the Baidu algorithm, seeing which domains count, which don't. But just looking at the number that we could find, this is really impressive, right?
It is. To get building your Chinese backlinks.
Yeah. And when we're looking at how big these websites are, looking here at search metrics SEO visibility, which means the higher visibility, the more rankings for more important keywords you have, usually in the top rankings, then it shows again that the more authoritative a domain is, the more power a domain has, the more rankings it already has, the more likely it ranks better. So doing your traditional SEO game, optimizing the making the technique work right, so you're being accessed well from the search engines, have the right content, and gain the backlinks from all the sites. So the regular SEO game really counts here as well. But don't buy backlinks. Google doesn't want us to buy backlinks, and Baidu certainly doesn't want this either. I mean, buying backlinks is against the game. The idea of backlinks, we said this already, is to bring visitors to your website. And this is what they want to count, or what they're trying to count. So whenever you're trying to game the search engine, then it's something that they don't want. And just like Google did with the Penguin update, Baidu did as well. They also do have their algorithm updates every now and then. And for example, this one in 2013, I really cannot pronounce this. Sarah, can you? Skindapsus?
Skindapsus aureus?
Yeah. Probably. You're probably right. So Baidu Skindapsus aureus algorithm update, which happened in February 2013, was devaluing websites that were selling or buying backlinks. And the bad thing about buying backlinks is you do not have a disavow tool like you have with Google, at least not anymore. Baidu canceled this procedure. So you do not have a way on saying, hey, I don't want these backlinks. Yeah. So you have to start with the very first step and not getting these bad backlinks in the beginning. So really be careful about this. And this is not the only algorithm update that went around this. I mean, we've seen in the West so many publications and magazines with their own websites selling backlinks. This happened in China as well. And those publishers were really at the bad side when 2016 the Blue Sky algorithm update hit. They really got penalties. And it's not easy to get out of such a penalty. So this will go on, and there will be more updates fighting spam and illegal behavior or black hat behavior, however you want to call it. So really try to stay on the white hat side. Yeah, try to earn these backlinks. That's definitely hard. It's a lot of work. It costs a lot of money and effort to do, but it keeps you on the safe side.
I think that's a good moral for everybody, not just in Baidu, is stick to the white hat stuff.
Definitely. Maybe let's end with some hands-on tips. So starting with recognizing simplified with traditional Chinese. We're looking at some basic character radicals here, some basic characters that are being used to make other characters off. Show you later. We're looking at social media and which social media you should implement in your website and maybe which you shouldn't. And you should have those people at hand that are native speakers of Mandarin Chinese from mainland China, knowing these words that your customers are speaking actually. Yeah, so really those local people that you want to have for content structure planning, for naming or of the navigational points, for content creation, not translation. About speaking languages, I heard you study Chinese once. I have two little tests here. You don't need to read them. That's all good. But can you see what is the difference between A and B?
Yeah, so I'm guessing number A is simplified Chinese and B is traditional Chinese. Because if you look at the second character, you can see that some of the little parts of the character have been taken away to make it more simpler. And as you go through the other characters, for example, you can see that they're a lot easier to write.
Yeah, exactly. On the left-hand side, we have got the simplified Chinese, which was introduced in China to help literacy. And on the right-hand side, we have the traditional Chinese, which is still written in some other parts of China, like Hong Kong, for example. The very left column here, like these, you don't see much difference between these characters, right? So there's still a lot of characters still being the same. But just as you said, the second one, there is one of the differences. And what we see here is basically this character, which stands for door. I mean, we've seen a little difference. So it was not really the door character, but so some grammatical thing. But it was using this radical, this basic character of door. And these characters these radicals are being used to make up many more characters. And we see here on the left-hand side the traditional ones, so many different characters being formed with this basic radical of the door, of this Western saloon door. And on the right-hand side, the simplified version of this very same characters, just with this, well, let's say modern door, just which you can open there. And when you're just looking at these characters, when you're trying to find those saloon characters, even in combination with others, or the simplified door character in combination with others, you might already have an idea if you're dealing with simplified or traditional Chinese. And I give you 2 more characters which you can more easily distinguish from each other. This is the bird character, which has all the feathers here. See them? Or just a plain wing. Left-hand side, traditional. On the right-hand side, simplified. Or the character for the horse. Seeing still all 4 legs of the horse and the wild mane, the hair. It's really being so much more simplified in the simplified version.
You can see a very big difference between the two with that one.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're just trying to find one of those 3 characters, even in the combinations, then you really have a good chance on very fast recognizing, is it traditional or is it simplified Chinese? And you can tell your content creator, hey, you sent me the wrong text or so.
That's really, really useful because to do the QA for people.
That's just the first step. Please still have it checked by somebody who really can read Chinese. The second hands-on tip was the social media usage. And here again, looking at the ranking factors correlation study, we see a correlation between having at least one Chinese social media channel being referenced between bad rankings and this. And you really should use them. And I've got an example of what not to do here. Please don't use them on your Chinese website. Those are services.
I've seen many of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you might be used to it, you might not even think about it, but these are services that are actually being blocked by the Great Chinese Firewall. And this is not because these services are illegal, but they do contain, or it's easily that they can contain content that it's illegal in China.
Thank you so much. I think that was really, really, really interesting. And I think it's going to be super useful to anybody who's looking to expand into the world of Baidu SEO.